Get out!
Revenge Files with Nora. File 24. Julia. For 11 years, I had built client portfolios worth hundreds of millions of dollars at Whitmore and Crane Consulting, one of Manhattan's most prestigious firms. I had transformed struggling accounts into success stories. I had mentored junior consultants who went on to lead their own teams. But the day came when none of it would matter. They told me I would never lead anything meaningful, that my ideas were too conservative, my approach too cautious, my ambition too quiet. The reality was that Marcus Devlin had decided I was standing in his way. My name is Julia Ashton. On a Tuesday afternoon in March, I walked out of a glass tower in Murray Hill with nothing but my personal belongings and a termination letter that called my departure a mutual decision. But it was not mutual. It was a ruthless calculation. Marcus Devlin would soon learn that it was the biggest mistake he ever made. Because nothing went the way he had planned. I was not unemployed, and I was not broken. Quite the opposite. Exactly 6 months after it all happened, I was sitting in a corner office at his biggest competitor, leading the team that had just closed the largest account in the firm's history, an account I had stolen directly from Whitmore and Crane. Here is how I rebuilt everything they tried to destroy. I joined Whitmore and Crane straight out of business school, back when the firm occupied only 3 floors instead of 7. My first desk was a shared cubicle near the copy room, and my first client was a small manufacturing company in Queens that nobody else wanted to touch. Within 2 years, that company had expanded into 3 states, and my name started appearing in internal memos as someone to watch. The firm grew. I grew with it. By my 5th year, I was managing a portfolio worth $40 million. By my 8th year, that number had tripled. I understood something that many consultants overlooked. Clients did not want flashy presentations or aggressive promises. They wanted someone who listened. Someone who understood their fears as clearly as their ambitions. Someone who would tell them the truth even when the truth was uncomfortable. That philosophy made me effective. It also made me a target. Marcus Devlin arrived at Whitmore and Crane 3 years before my termination, brought in as managing partner to modernize the firm's approach. He was everything I was not. I was measured, he was loud. I was strategic, he was impulsive. He was charming in boardrooms but cutting and abrasive in private conversations. He could disguise his contempt for clients with fancy words. He believed consulting was about dominance, about making clients feel they needed you more than you needed them. I believed it was about partnership. From our first interaction, we clashed. It happened during a strategy meeting on the 31st floor. I had prepared a presentation for a potential healthcare client, a regional hospital network looking to optimize their administrative costs. My approach focused on sustainable reductions, changes that would save money without sacrificing patient care quality. Marcus interrupted me halfway through. "Julia, this is too conservative." He stood at the end of the conference table, arms crossed, and continued with a dismissive look. "The client wants transformation, not incremental improvement. They want to see bold numbers. You know those people who walk around acting like they know everything. Even today, I cannot help but get angry thinking about his attitude. Bold numbers that we cannot guarantee," I replied calmly. "If we overpromise and underdeliver, we lose them permanently. If we underpromise, we lose them to someone bolder." He turned to the other partners in the room. "This is exactly what I mean about the old guard holding us back. Safe thinking, limited vision." The words landed like stones. Old guard, as if 11 years of proven results meant nothing, as if building lasting client relationships was somehow inferior to chasing flashy metrics. The room stayed silent. Nobody defended me. Because the senior partners trusted him, he controlled the bonus allocations. He decided who got promoted and who got sidelined. That was reason enough for them to fear Marcus and keep quiet. Most people survive by staying silent. I finished my presentation without further interruption, but the damage was done. From that day forward, Marcus made it his mission to diminish everything I built. He started small, reassigning my junior consultants to other teams without notice, scheduling important client calls on my vacation days, forgetting to forward me emails about accounts I had managed for years. Each small slight was deniable. Each action had a reasonable explanation. but the pattern was unmistakable. Whether or not what he did was personal makes no difference. In situations like these, you should not get carried away by your emotions. You should take smart steps instead. The smartest step was to build my observations on a solid foundation. Documentation. And that is exactly what I did. I documented every reassignment, every missed meeting, every email chain where my name mysteriously disappeared. I organized it all in Notion, time-stamped and searchable. When the time came, the evidence would speak for itself. My colleague Diana from the research department noticed what was happening. She stopped by my office one evening when the floor had emptied out, closing the door behind her with a concerned expression. "I am sure you are aware. He is isolating you," she said quietly. "I have seen this pattern before. He did the same thing to Richard Park last year. Slow marginalization until the person either quits or gives him a reason to push them out." "I know," I replied. "That is why I am documenting everything. But what am I supposed to do? Fight a managing partner? The documentation is the right move," Diana said firmly. "But I would suggest you start thinking about your options outside this building. Loyalty is beautiful, but it can never be one-sided, Julia. Otherwise, you only destroy yourself." Her words stayed with me longer than she probably intended. Then came the client presentation meeting that changed everything. Baxter Medical Group was my crown jewel. I had worked with them for 6 years, guiding them through 2 acquisitions and a complete operational restructuring. They trusted me implicitly. When they announced plans for a major expansion into the Midwest, they specifically requested that I lead the consulting team. Marcus inserted himself into the project 3 weeks before the final presentation. "I want to be there," he announced during a team meeting. "This is a high-visibility account. Senior leadership should be present." I kept my expression neutral. "Of course. I will send you the briefing materials." What I did not know was that Marcus had already been meeting with Baxter's CEO privately, planting seeds, suggesting that my approach was outdated, promising aggressive growth strategies that sounded exciting but lacked any foundation in reality. The presentation took place on a Friday morning. 67 people crowded into Baxter's main conference room, including their entire executive team and board members. I had spent 3 weeks preparing a comprehensive expansion plan, complete with market analysis, risk assessments, and realistic timelines, but I never got to present it. I just watched Marcus's show. Marcus stood up before I could begin. He thanked everyone for coming, then launched into his own presentation, one I had never seen, filled with projections I had never approved and promises I would never have made. The room responded with enthusiasm, bold numbers, aggressive timelines, transformational language. Everything clients wanted to hear, whether it was actually achievable did not matter to anyone. When Marcus finally paused, Baxter's CEO turned to me. "Julia, what do you think of this approach?" I was surprised they even remembered I was there, given how mesmerized they were. I had a choice to make in that moment. If I let myself get swept up in the wind, smiled and nodded, endorsing a plan I knew was flawed, I could protect my position, or I could tell the truth. Which do you think I chose? Yes. I chose to tell the truth. I think some of these projections need additional analysis before we commit to them publicly, I said, carefully. The timeline for market penetration seems optimistic given the regulatory environment in several of those states. Marcus was trying not to lose his composure as he listened to me. Then his smile tightened. "Julia prefers a more cautious approach, which is valuable, of course, but sometimes caution is just fear wearing a professional mask." The CEO nodded slowly, his eyes moving between us. I could see him recalculating, choosing sides. After the meeting, Marcus found me in the hallway. Colleagues were walking past, trying not to make eye contact. "That was embarrassing," he said quietly. "You contradicted me in front of our biggest client." I offered professional feedback. I replied, "Which is my job? Your job is whatever I say it is." He stepped closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, sharp and expensive. "And right now, your job is to stay out of my way." So he finally put into words what I already knew, I thought. I did not flinch. I did not apologize. I simply held his gaze until he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing down the corridor like a countdown. 2 weeks later, I received a meeting invitation from HR. The subject line read simply, "Discussion regarding your role, no context, no warning, just 4 words that would reshape the next chapter of my life." The HR conference room looked smaller and more soulless than I remembered. Neutral walls, neutral furniture. On the table, a single object that revealed they expected me to cry after the meeting, a box of tissues. Catherine Wells, the HR director, sat across from me with a folder I recognized immediately. My personnel file. "Julia, thank you for coming." Her voice carried that practiced warmth HR professionals deploy when delivering bad news. "Let us get right to the point, if you do not mind. We would like to discuss some changes in the organizational structure." I kept my hands still in my lap. "What kind of changes?" "The firm is evolving. We are consolidating certain roles to improve efficiency and reduce redundancy." She opened the folder without looking at it. "After careful consideration, we have determined that your position will be eliminated as part of this restructuring." The words should have shocked me. They did not. I had spent weeks watching Marcus position the chess pieces. I just had not expected the final move to come so soon. I had hoped for more time to document. "Eliminated?" I repeated, not reassigned, not transitioned. "Eliminated. We are prepared to offer a generous severance package." Catherine slid a document across the table. 6 months of salary, continued health benefits, and career transition. Support. I did not touch the paper. "Who made this decision?" Catherine's expression flickered. This was a collaborative decision involving senior leadership, including Marcus Devlin. Though she hesitated to give a clear answer, she had no choice but to confirm it. "I see." I folded my hands on the table. Even though I could feel my emotions rising, I forced my voice to remain steady. "And what is the official reason for my termination?" "Performance concerns," she said carefully, "and alignment issues with the firm's strategic direction." "Performance concerns?" I almost laughed. My portfolio has outperformed the firm average every single year for the past decade. My client retention rate is 94%. 3 of the junior consultants I mentored are now senior managers. Catherine's discomfort was visible now. "Julia, I understand this is difficult. Do you?" I leaned forward slightly. "Do you understand that I built relationships that took years to develop, that clients specifically request me because they trust my judgment, that I have given this firm 11 years of my life? The severance package reflects our appreciation for your contributions." Appreciation. The word tasted bitter. I stood slowly, leaving the document untouched on the table. "I will need time to review this with an attorney," I said. "Of course." Catherine's relief was palpable. "Take whatever time you need." What a considerate attitude, right? I walked out of that room with my spine straight and my expression neutral. But inside, there was the exhaustion and anger of 11 years. Diana found me in my office an hour later, watching me pack personal items into a cardboard box. Her face was pale with anger. "This is wrong," she said. "Everyone knows it. Marcus has been gunning for you since the day he arrived, and now he finally found a way to push you out." I wrapped a framed photo of my parents in newspaper. "It does not matter what everyone knows. What matters is what I do next. What are you going to do?" I paused, considering the question. For 11 years, I had defined myself by this place, by the clients I served, the colleagues I mentored, the reputation I built brick by careful brick. And now someone had decided that all of it could be erased with a single meeting and a severance check. "I am going to rebuild, Diana," I said. "I have to, but somewhere they cannot touch." Diana reached out and squeezed my hand. "Whatever you need. References, introductions, anything. You have people who believe in you, Julia. Do not forget that." I did not forget. I carried those words with me as I walked out of the building for the last time, past the security desk where the guard avoided my eyes, through the revolving door that had welcomed me every morning for more than a decade. The March wind hit my face as I stepped onto the sidewalk, sharp and cold. I had even forgotten what season it was. What day is it today? I wondered. Holding the box with my belongings, I stood there frozen for a moment. I let the harsh wind sweep away the stress and disappointments that had built up inside me for so long. All the traces left by urgent meetings, deadlines, fake relationships, and the struggle to hold on. I watched the people rushing past me, lost in the same emotions I was feeling. At the same time, up above on the 31st floor, Marcus Devlin was probably celebrating. Certain that I would quietly disappear, become another casualty of corporate politics, and another cautionary tale. But he had never considered the possibility that I might be different from the other characters in stories like this. I was more determined than ever. I found a coffee shop 3 blocks away and sat in a corner booth, my cardboard box on the seat beside me. I pulled out my phone and opened my contacts, scrolling through names I had not reached out to in months. Former colleagues who had moved to other firms. Clients who had mentioned opportunities over the years. Industry connections I had maintained even when there was no immediate benefit. Diana had told me to think about my options. Now I was going to do more than think. I started making calls. The first week after my termination felt like walking through fog. Out of habit, I woke each morning at my usual time, made my coffee, opened my laptop, then remembered I had nothing to do. My apartment in the West Village, which had always felt like a sanctuary, now felt like a prison cell. But I did not let myself wallow. Every morning, I treated job searching like the work it was. I updated my resume. I reached out to recruiters. I scheduled informational interviews with contacts across the industry. And every evening, I reviewed what I had learned, adjusting my strategy based on the responses I received. The market was not kind. Several firms expressed interest, then went silent. One promising lead evaporated when the hiring manager mentioned he had spoken with someone from Whitmore and Crane who raised concerns about my collaborative skills. I knew exactly who that someone was. Marcus was not content with just firing me. He had made it personal. Getting me out of his way was not enough for him. He was making a special effort to prevent me from carving my own path. He was actively poisoning the well, causing my professional network to question my value. And I had not even had the chance to prove myself right. Facing this reality hit me hard at first. It was as though I had been found guilty in an unprecedented trial. But I did not have the luxury of giving up or falling apart. What I clearly realized was this was not just business. This was personal now. And if Marcus wanted to play this game, I would need to play it better. I called Diana one evening. At first, I could not contain the anger simmering beneath the surface. He is sabotaging me, I said. Telling people I am difficult to work with. Undermining every opportunity I pursue. Diana's sigh carried through the phone. I wish I could say I am surprised. He has been telling people inside the company that you left because you could not handle the direction the firm was going. Painting himself as the reasonable one who tried to work with you. But Julia, despite everything, you need to stay calm. Otherwise you risk making a big mistake. Do not forget that. You are right. There is an anger inside me that has been building for so long. Do not worry, I will be fine. I stared out my window at the city lights. What are you going to do? I thought about the question for a long moment, but I also thought about what I actually wanted. Revenge or being proven right was not enough. I wanted something more fundamental. I know exactly what I want. I need to prove that my approach works, I said. Not by fighting him on his terms, by succeeding on mine. How? I do not know yet, I admitted. But I am going to figure it out. 3 weeks after my termination, I received an unexpected call. The name on the screen was Rachel Okonkwo, a woman I had met years ago at an industry conference. She had left Whitmore and Crane before Marcus arrived, moving to Sterling Partners, one of the most respected consulting firms in the Northeast. Julia, her voice was warm and direct. I heard what happened. I want to talk to you about something. We met the next day at a quiet restaurant in Midtown. Rachel was exactly as I remembered her. Composed, confident, with a sharpness in her eyes that missed nothing. I will be honest with you, she said after we ordered. I have been following your career since you spoke at that panel on sustainable growth strategies. Everything you said aligned with how I believe consulting should work. I appreciated that panel, I replied, though I suspect it made me unpopular with certain people. Rachel smiled. The best ideas usually do. She leaned forward, lowering her voice slightly. Sterling Partners is expanding. We are building a new healthcare division, and we need someone to lead it. Someone with your experience, your client relationships, and your philosophy. I stared at her, processing the implications. You are offering me a job? I am offering you an opportunity, she corrected. Director level. full authority to build your team, a compensation package that reflects your actual value, not what Whitmore and Crane decided you were worth. But something nagged at me. There is a non-compete clause in my severance agreement, I said slowly. I cannot directly solicit clients from Whitmore and Crane for 18 months. Rachel nodded. I assumed as much. But here is the thing about client relationships. You built them because you earn trust. If those clients decide, on their own, that they prefer working with you rather than with Marcus Devlin, that is their choice, not yours. She paused, letting the implication settle. All you have to do, she continued, is be available when they come looking. I took a deep breath. When would you need an answer? Take the weekend. Think about what you want your next chapter to look like, and then call me. I spent that weekend walking through the city, thinking about everything I had lost and everything I might gain. I visited my favorite bookstore in the village, sat in Central Park watching joggers pass, stood on the Brooklyn Bridge as the sun set over the Manhattan skyline. For 11 years, I had measured my worth by my position at Whitmore and Crane. By the title on my business card, the size of my portfolio, the respect I received from colleagues and clients. And Marcus Devlin had stripped all of that away with a single meeting. But he had not stripped away what made me effective. He had not taken my knowledge, my relationships, my philosophy, my resilience. Those belonged to me. They had always belonged to me. On Monday morning, I called Rachel. I accept, I said. When do I start? Welcome to Sterling Partners, Julia. She sounded genuinely pleased. Let us show them what real leadership looks like. My first month at Sterling Partners felt like breathing after being underwater for too long. The office was bright and modern, located in a glass tower with views of the Hudson River. My new colleagues welcomed me with genuine warmth, curious about my background but respectful of my privacy. Rachel had not exaggerated about the opportunity. The healthcare division was mine to build from scratch. I had budget authority, hiring power, and complete freedom to implement the strategies I believed in. I started with fundamentals. I reviewed Sterling's existing healthcare clients, identifying opportunities for deeper engagement. I began drafting a strategic plan that prioritized sustainable growth over flashy short-term wins. Within weeks, word began to spread through the industry that Julia Ashton had landed somewhere unexpected. And slowly, quietly, clients began to reach out. The first call came from Martin Chen, CFO of a regional hospital network I had worked with years ago. Julia, I heard you moved to Sterling. His voice was warm. I have been meaning to reach out. We have a new project coming up, and frankly, I would rather work with you than with the people who replaced you. I kept my tone professional even as satisfaction spread through my chest. I would be happy to discuss how Sterling might support you, Martin. Tell me about the project. By the end of that call, I had scheduled a presentation meeting. By the end of that month, I had closed the contract. Then came Baxter Medical Group. The irony was almost too perfect. The same client whose presentation Marcus had hijacked, the same project that had ultimately led to my termination, was now facing serious problems with their Midwest expansion. The aggressive timeline Marcus had promised was collapsing. The bold projections were not materializing. And the CEO who had once sided with Marcus was now desperately seeking alternatives. When his assistant called to schedule a meeting, I did not hesitate. The meeting took place at Baxter's Manhattan headquarters on a gray morning in September. I arrived early, took a seat in the waiting area, and reviewed my notes one final time. This was not just another client pitch. This was a chance to prove everything I believed about sustainable consulting practices. Robert Harmon, Baxter's CEO, appeared in the lobby exactly on time. His face looked more lined than I remembered, the stress of a failing expansion visible in every crease. Julia, he said, extending his hand. Thank you for coming. I shook it firmly. Thank you for reaching out. He led me to a conference room on the executive floor, the same building where Marcus had hijacked my presentation 6 months earlier. The symmetry was not lost on me. I will be direct, Robert said once we were seated. The Midwest expansion is not going well. The timeline Marcus promised was unrealistic. The cost projections were off by significant margins, and now we are facing regulatory delays that nobody anticipated. I kept my expression neutral, though inside something warm and sharp was spreading through my chest. I warned you about those timelines. You did. He rubbed his temples. I should have listened. I got caught up in the energy of the presentation, the confidence Marcus projected. I wanted to believe we could move that fast. And now I need someone who will tell me the truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. I let the silence stretch for a moment, giving his words space to settle. Then I opened my portfolio and began outlining a revised approach, a realistic timeline, a sustainable growth strategy, everything I had planned to present 6 months ago, updated to account for the current situation. Robert listened without interruption. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. "This is exactly what we needed," he said, quietly. "Someone who understands that building something real takes time." I nodded. Real growth is rarely flashy, but it lasts. He extended his hand across the table. "I would like Sterling Partners to take over the Midwest expansion project, full authority, whatever resources you need." I shook his hand, feeling the weight of the moment settle into my bones. "Welcome back, Julia." The news traveled fast. Within 48 hours, the consulting industry was buzzing with whispers that Baxter Medical Group had terminated their contract with Whitmore and Crane. Terminated completely, with a public statement citing strategic misalignment and unrealistic expectations. Marcus Devlin's name was not mentioned directly. It did not need to be. Everyone knew whose bold projections had crumbled under the weight of reality. Diana called me that evening, her voice carrying barely contained excitement. "Julia, you should see what is happening here. Marcus has been in closed-door meetings all day. The senior partners are furious. Baxter was supposed to be his showcase project." I leaned back in my chair, watching the city lights flicker outside my window. "How are people reacting?" "Quietly," she said, "but I can see it in their faces. The people he pushed around, the colleagues he dismissed, the junior staff he belittled. They are all watching and waiting." Waiting for what? For him to fall. I would be lying if I said her words did not settle something restless inside me. For months, I had wondered if leaving Whitmore and Crane meant losing everything I had built. Now I understood that the things worth keeping had followed me out the door. I took a deep breath. The dominoes began falling faster than anyone anticipated. 2 weeks after Baxter's departure, Martin Chen's hospital network made their transition official. Then Greenfield Pharmaceuticals. Then Westbrook Health Systems. Each departure sent ripples through Whitmore and Crane. Each client who chose Sterling Partners was another crack in the foundation Marcus had built on promises he could not keep. I did not solicit any of them. They came because trust, once earned, does not transfer automatically to whoever happens to be sitting in your old chair. By November, Sterling Partners' healthcare division had grown from a concept to a thriving practice. My team had expanded to 14 consultants. Our revenue projections exceeded expectations by 30%. Industry publications had started calling us the firm to watch. Rachel stopped by my office one afternoon with a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. "I think this calls for a celebration," she said, setting them on my desk. I looked up from my laptop. "What are we celebrating?" She smiled. "The board just approved expanding the healthcare division nationally. They want you to lead the rollout." The words took a moment to sink in. National expansion. A year ago, I had been packing a cardboard box and wondering if my career was over. Now I was being asked to build something that would reshape the entire firm. "I do not know what to say," I admitted. "Say yes," Rachel replied. "And then tell me how you want to do it." I thought about the question carefully. I had learned something important during my months of transition. Growth without foundation was just a house of cards waiting for the wind. "I want to do it right," I said, finally. Sustainable expansion. Quality over speed. The same philosophy that brought our healthcare clients to us in the first place. Rachel nodded approvingly. "That is exactly what I was hoping you would say." She poured the champagne and handed me a glass. "To building something that lasts." I raised my glass to meet hers. To proving them wrong. The final chapter of Marcus Devlin's tenure arrived not with a dramatic confrontation, but with a quiet announcement buried in an industry newsletter. Marcus Devlin will be transitioning out of his role as managing partner, effective at the end of the quarter. The bold visionary who had promised transformation had delivered chaos instead. The clients he had courted with aggressive projections had fled to competitors who offered something he never could. Honesty. Diana sent me a text the morning the announcement went public, just 3 words. "It is done." I stared at those words for a long time. They were like proof that I was right. I felt something calm, close to relief. Marcus had not destroyed my career. He had redirected it. Every obstacle he had placed in my path had forced me to find a different route, and that different route had led somewhere better than I could have imagined. His cruelty had been real. His sabotage had been deliberate. But in the end, the only career he had managed to destroy was his own. I closed my phone and tried to focus on the presentation I had been preparing. A new client meeting was scheduled for that afternoon. A regional healthcare network looking for a consulting partner who would tell them the truth, even when the truth was complicated. I smiled to myself as I reviewed the final slides. The truth had always been my strategy. Now it was my legacy. A year after my termination, I stood at a podium in a hotel ballroom, accepting an industry award for excellence in healthcare consulting. The room was filled with colleagues, competitors, and clients who had watched my career nearly end and then rise again. Rachel sat at a table near the front, beaming with pride. Diana had made the trip from her new position at a different firm, one she had joined after deciding that Whitmore and Crane no longer aligned with her values. Even Robert Harmon from Baxter Medical Group was there, his expansion project back on track and exceeding the realistic projections I had promised. I looked out at the crowd and thought about the journey that had brought me here. The humiliation of being escorted from a building I had helped build. I cleared my throat and leaned toward the microphone. A year ago, I was told that my approach was too cautious, that my ideas were outdated. I was pushed out of a firm I had dedicated 11 years to, and for a while, I believed that maybe they were right. Maybe I was not enough. The room was silent, but here is what I learned. The people who try to diminish your worth are usually the ones who feel threatened by it. Real leadership is not about making bold promises you cannot keep. It is about building something sustainable. Something honest. The warm applause that followed motivated me to keep pursuing my goals. Today, Sterling Partners' healthcare division operates in 12 states, with plans to expand internationally within the next 2 years. I lead a team of 43 consultants who share my commitment to sustainable client relationships. Our retention rate is 97%. Our client satisfaction scores are the highest in the firm's history. And every morning, when I walk into my corner office with its view of the Hudson River, I remember the woman who stood on a sidewalk in Murray Hill, holding a cardboard box and wondering if everything she had built was gone forever. She was not gone. She had just needed the right environment to prove it. The lesson I learned is simple. When someone tries to reduce you to less than you are, the most powerful response is not to fight them on their terms. It is to build a life where their opinion no longer matters. Do you agree? Share your thoughts in the comments. The full green file playlist's waiting, or discover other color files for more office revenge. See you in the next file.